tight in here on council meetings that I
Okay. Welcome to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of April 14, 2022. I will try to speak loudly and clearly. I apologize for this, but I've got to wear it. The meeting of the Decatur Historic Preservation Commission. I will call roll with each commission member answering present. John Allison, I believe, has been excused. Rebecca Burns.
Present.
Dodie Hall.
Present.
Barbara Kelly.
Present.
Bill Stone.
Present.
Jacob Woods.
Present.
I'm Lynn Shupert, and we have a quorum present. Dr. Swope is the city's preservation specialist. Thank you to everyone who's attending today. Your involvement in this commission's proceeding is vital to the effectiveness of this process. There's a copy of the agenda out front if you would like one. Historic district designation means your neighborhoods have been recognized by the United States government, the state of Alabama, and the city of Decatur as being architecturally or historically significant to our community. Historic districts are not created to prevent changes, but rather to ensure that the proposed changes are appropriate to the individual property and the districts as a whole. The Commission's responsibility is to review the appropriateness of all proposed changes. Each historic resource within the districts is assessed on its own individual merits. What is appropriate for one property may not be appropriate for another based on age, location, neighboring properties, and stylistic details. The Historic Preservation Commission's rulings are based on written standards and regulations that guide our review and decision making. These guidelines and the Commission's decisions have the force of city ordinance. You can access our guidelines along with application forms on the city's website. Our hearing process is as follows. Staff will present the applications. When she reads your name and property address, please be prepared to come to the podium. We're here. Staff will present the application and staff assessment of each request. The staff assessment results from a review of the application from someone who exceeds federal qualifications as published in Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 61. When staff is finished presenting the application item, the applicant and or a designated representative will then state his or her name and address and provide any additional information or comments regarding that application item. The Commission may ask clarifying questions of the applicant at this time. Next, we will hear any public comments on that particular application item only. After public comment has closed, the Commission will discuss the item and the Chair will entertain a motion and dispense with that application item. Staff will then proceed to the next application item and so forth. An approved certificate of appropriateness, or a COA, will be issued in the form of an email that copies both the applicant and the building department approximately 1 week after this hearing. The document will outline and reaffirm what was approved and that the project has met the guidelines of the Commission. A COA must be issued before a building permit can be obtained. If any changes to your project are anticipated after the COA is issued, it is the responsibility of the homeowner to contact staff and she will help guide you. In some cases, you may be required to submit the changes for review and issuance of a new COA. If your project is denied and you are not issued a COA, you will be issued a letter stating the reasons for denial and additional information. Denied COAs will be sent via certified mail to the property owner's address filed with the Morgan County Revenue Commissioner's Office. You may resubmit an application with revised plans at a future meeting. There is an appeal process for a denied COA as well, which is spelled out in the municipal ordinance under sections 18-25 and 18-92. After all applications are heard, the Commission will entertain general comments from the public limited to 3 minutes per individual. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the March 10, 2022 minutes. I have a motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes, March 10 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Caroline?
I'll go over the fast track COAs. In the meantime, those of you that didn't see this, if you plan on speaking tonight and you're not one of the people on the agenda, if you want to speak about something on the agenda, or I need to pass this out because we've got to get people's info, so if you can just pass that back there, I need to have that record. So for our fast track COAs, since our last meeting, we've had 10. We're moving into building season, so it's been quite busy. 506 Ferry, which was replacing a 6-foot tall rear fence. 651 Moulton, which is rebuilding a rear deck that went in tandem with an earlier approved COA. They had a lot of wood rot on the back of the house. 309 Canal, that was a repair fire damaged building. You're seeing part of that tonight, but they already had approval for a wood window and doors to go back on and a new roof. 904 Line, they have some issues with their historic chimneys. 911 Line, a new roof. 1041 Jackson, new roof. 902 Line, a rear yard tree very close to the foundation of the house. 311 Canal, new roof. 651 Johnston, repair and outbuilding. And 214 Canal, which is structural stabilization of a chimney. First on the agenda tonight is 309 Canal, which is Ms. Hahn, but I believe her contractor, Adam Dumas. I don't think I saw them. Is anyone here for that one? All right, we will put that one off and move on to the next, which is 651 Moulton. Let me catch up on my slides since we skipped this one. The background on this particular property, it's a one-story Victorian era cottage built circa 1900 in the Albany District. House is at the intersection of Moulton and 8th. It has 7 front porch supports that are post-World War II era, these sort of flat metal columns that are really typical, along with the porch. That's a poured concrete porch, so that's not the original porch, it's one that was replaced. The owners would like to replace the 1950s era porch supports with 7 fiberglass square columns. The design review standards for this: porches replace missing or deteriorated components in kind. In cases where historic components are completely missing, it's recommended that new components match documented historic conditions based on historic documentation, photographs, etc. If such documentation is not available, components should be chosen that are appropriate to the building and surrounding neighborhood. Staff findings on this: there are known historic photos of the building when I went down to archives. It's a Victorian era house, so it either would have had turned porch posts similar in design to other ones that the commission has seen before. It's also possible that it had free classic, which would have had really slender Tuscan columns. That's what was put back on the Lyerly house. That was the Victorian one that had the fire, and that's what they put back on theirs. And the applicants are aware there's had a discussion on this one. Did go out, did a field survey. This is on the edge of the district, so a lot of the houses near it are, this is actually probably one of the oldest houses on that block. There's a handful of Victorians, but there's a lot of craftsmen. The Victorians near it are a mix. Some have replacement porch support, some have turned porch supports. Directly by this are craftsmen, and they have era, and they have more of the square replacement columns. The original column design is unknown, so the focus really is how the new column intersects with the neighborhood, and then actually the underside of the porch. So the challenge on this, they're putting a column in a porch that was probably built for these flat metal, we call them columns in the field. They're actually referred to as flat metal columns, even though they don't look like a column. And then at that point, it really is just the scale of it is the discussion, and that's something that certainly we can work with the commission architect on. So some additional pictures on this. Those are those circa 1950, and there's a vinyl wrap on it as well, so that's part of what you're seeing. Now they're not proposing the extra detail, they're proposing plain. This is working, there we go. So you see this little detail here? That they are saying they're not looking for, they're just looking for the straight columns. And they were kind enough, somebody had to get on a ladder to do this, but just to give us an idea of the dimension we're dealing with there. So it's just under 7 inches is the underside of that tuck on the porch roof that they've got to work with. So it really comes down to like what's going to fit within that space. And a few more angles on the house. It's got all of its original wood siding and windows, which are great. And that is it on the staff reports. And if you have any questions, the applicants are here.
Okay. Do you have any statements, or you want to just ask questions?
We are prepared to build out the beam.
We're gonna have to have you go up there so
Up
we
here,
can
so-
hear. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, your arm. I hope you didn't get that after measuring the top of the porch.
No, it was her husband measured. I pushed her off. Okay, so we are prepared, if needed, to build the beam out a hair to accommodate the columns, because the bigger columns definitely would justify the bigger house with the, I know it's a 1-story, but it looks 2-story, and a small column is not gonna do it any justice.
By build out, what do you mean?
Just add some to the back side of that beam and build it out. Somebody wrapped it in vinyl before she purchased it, so right now the porch is not by any means historical, but we plan to eventually get it back to the wood siding as well. So we would be able to build it out and then wrap it in the original 117 siding.
Jacob, do you have any questions?
I don't have any issue with removing those flat columns, as you call them.
You just say decorative metal columns.
Decorative metal columns. I don't have
Atrocities.
those going out. I'm not sure about the square and how that would fit with that particular house style. Probably lean more towards a round, just because it would fit that particular architectural style. And I know we don't have any pictures, but I doubt that in the original construction that they would put square on it, just because they didn't change too much from the style once it was built. Those were the two choices. But I think it's going to probably take some work in the field to try to figure out what the best size is and what might look best with the house, just to get your scale and proportion right, because I know you don't want a little bitty small column there.
Right.
So I do understand that. So I think it's something that we could work on in the field, Caroline, and try to get something sized correctly.
Rebecca, any questions?
Well, I don't really have any questions, but the house you were referring to is on Johnston, the house that had the fire. I wish you would consider, I personally wish you would look at those columns, but I know that's not
Those
a
are just
technical comment.
simple Tuscan columns, so they're not fluted. They're just your standard classical, which you see on a lot of late Victorians. So that's what you're referring to.
Okay, we can look at them.
I just, like you said already, I just think I just don't want the house to be overtaken and all you see are your columns. So.
I'm like Jacob, I don't have any objections to those flat columns coming down, and I like the idea of Jacob and Caroline working to determine the correct size. I'm not sure I understand. So the part that we saw Chad measuring, are you talking about that's the part that you would build out
Yes,
to
ma'am.
accommodate a larger
Yes, ma'am.
column?
Mhm.
Okay.
Just so Caroline had said something in one of our emails about, part of the column sticking out
Right.
past it.
Right.
So we can accommodate that by just making the beam more substantial
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. So that's something that you and
Yes, we have to
Caroline
look
could
at that,
determine
which is
if
the actual header, how wide that is, but also to make sure that the base of the column doesn't hang off the edge of your porch. So if the porch was, depending on where we place that column, you're just gonna have to get the column in the right spot and then maybe adjust the header on the inside a little bit to accommodate that. Because you don't want it sticking out too far on the outside.
Right.
Barbara?
I just think it's very important to get the column the right size, and I think the only way you can do that is actually kind of mock it up. I mean, for me, that would be the only way I could do it, but I think it would be a huge improvement, just a wonderful thing to do for the house. And I'd like to defer to the architect and Caroline on exactly how you'll do that roof extension. I'm not sure I understand it, so I would defer to them, their opinion on that, because I don't understand that part of the extension. So, but I just think it's wonderful that you're doing it. I'm just so pleased. But I think we've got to get the right size, just in the right look.
Bill, you have any comments?
Are we talking about round columns or square columns?
We were originally talking about 8-inch square.
Okay. 8.
8-inch, yes, sir. So nothing as big as the picture that Carolyn has. That's just the AFCO brochure picture.
And I like the Auburn flag.
You like the Auburn flag?
Auburn flag.
You can come chat for that.
Okay, well, what I'm hearing, I agree with what's been said, to figure out the proportion,
Yes.
I think. And what I'd like to see, maybe if the commission would agree, maybe we approve this with the idea that Caroline and Jacob will work with them and, come back, and if you're willing to work, to say that's the appropriate one, because, if you get really big ones, you're gonna lose your house. And if you get little teeny ones, you're gonna have what you got now.
Yes, right.
So, to work with that, and we've got some very good staff person and an architect who can help you. So, do I hear a motion from the
Let's see if
commission?
there's any public comment on this one.
public
and then we'll
comment, excuse me.
go- I
Anybody
don't
else?
think so, but did we have any public comment on this one? None, okay. Now we need a motion, and keep in mind, the COA as it was presented was calling for square. If you're looking at moving in a different direction, it needs to be amended, and there needs to make sure that the property owner is fine with that as well, or another option, which would be a Victorian turned post too.
Can it be amended to read that the architect working with Chad and Darcy and you two can determine, I mean, I don't know
I think
that that's
I think
something that we
fine.
can,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Darcy, is that something that you're fine with whatever column, as long as it's not what you've got now? Is that what I'm?
Yeah, the only one that I would prefer not to have is,
The
you
turn.
continue to talk about the sizing being right, the smaller,
The
the turn.
turn post.
Yeah.
So you would prefer like a round column?
Prefer a square column, but,
Okay.
I'll take whatever's not this.
Okay. All right. So
It
then,
just doesn't look like there's any supports at all to it.
it looks like chicken legs holding it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, AFCO also makes a 6-inch, I believe, square. So if we need to go down a size square, we can do that too.
Do I have a motion?
Well, I agree with taking those off, but I don't know if I can go with the square. But I would amend it to go for a round and to work with you on the right size. I'd like to suggest as an amended COA. Now, it depends on if they agree to that or not.
She's okay with round, just not the turned.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion on that?
Yes.
Okay. Caroline, make sure we get it. Motion to approve the certificate, the COA, with the caveat that the columns more than likely will be round, but to work with Jacob and Caroline
For the correct size.
for the correct size, so we don't overpower it or underpower it. And is that good enough for you? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I will reach out to y'all next week, and we'll get a time that we can meet and bring Jacob in and do field measurements and figure out what size we need to get and get ordered. You are welcome. Let's see. I'm gonna back up. Do we have a representative for 309 Canal? No. All right. 701 Line Street, Sandifer. House is a one-story Victorian-era cottage built circa 1905, is contributing structure within Old Decatur. Applicant would like to expand the living space in her house, and she's actually met with the commission for pre-design before in January. She's still working on that portion of it, but in the meantime, she's coming back and wants to move plans with the interior of the house and is looking at skylights to make the attic space usable. So Decatur's design review standards, section 5 roofing, subsection 7 skylights. Skylights may be allowable if they will not be readily visible from principal streets. In such cases, the use of low profile flat skylights is recommended. Staff findings: house is on a corner lot. Commission has historically treated both sides as principal. but on occasion has given consideration to the rear portion of the house on corner lots, starting approximately halfway at that elevation. The skylights on the northeast and northwest elevations do not appear to be readily visible from principal streets, Line and Vine. The single skylight proposed on Vine Street will be readily visible from Vine. I could not find the comparable COA in the files. I don't think the commission often deals with skylights. And the motion should address the consideration and any character of the property that needs to be in the record for this one. I can state, because I had a discussion with someone that was asking more about skylights earlier, I had a historic house, National Register house within a municipality that oversaw it that got state tax credits, and I put 5 skylights in, and it was a corner lot. Now, none of mine were on the corner sides, they were both on the back, but when you're on the side and you're on the rear at that point, you sort of have moved into, and they're very flat, they're the same brand. It's the same. I was like, oh, look, that's the next generation, because mine were about 10 years ago. So this is the front. That is the plan on the left of the screen. On the right is the ceiling, the roof, and you can see that the shaded areas is where they're proposing. So I think these would be almost impossible to see from the street. They're very tight to the neighbors. This is her back here. This is on Vine Street right here. So this is Vine Street, this is how it exists, this is where the skylight would be. This is a side, this is very difficult to get a picture of because it's so tight up against the neighbors, you can't even really see that facade. And the skylights would be going over in this area. It's a very tight clear, and then this is the rear, and they would be right in this section. Take it back to the side, which is the sort of the main one. Do you have any questions for the applicants?
Yeah, see. Wait and see any comments. Do you have anything to add right now? Or just questions, okay.
I was just gonna be here ready if you need me.
Okay, Jacob, do you have any questions?
I think the skylight choice is good with the low profile. I believe the only one that's in question is the one on Vine and how it's viewed. I do know it's put past the halfway point of the house and it's behind the bay or the turret that sticks out there. So that's about all I have right now. I'm gonna have to think about it for just a second while everybody else kind of talks.
Okay. Bill?
My experience with skylights, if you got skylights that leak, and you have skylights that don't leak yet, just make sure they install correctly.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
Is it, let me get everybody else. Barbara, you have any?
My only question is the one on Vine Street that's gonna be readily visible. I would prefer that one may be left out, but the other two seem like they'll be great.
Yeah, I'm not, for me, that skylight that is on, what is that, Vine? It detracts from your eyebrow window, which I love, and it just kind of pulls the attention away from that a little bit. So
Rebecca?
I would think about maybe not doing that one.
I agree with Barbara and Dodie. That's the only one I'm concerned about, because I do, when I see that house, that's all I look at.
Yeah.
I look at the top before I look at the lower.
Yeah.
Is there, from the design inside, if that one was left out, is there still sufficient lighting up there? Because you got 3 in the back, 2 on the other side.
It would be it'd be okay, yeah, because it's one big room, so we've got light on the other side and off the back, so it would work. It's just, we're just trying to get as much in there as we could. And I think I had written optional on those because I figured they would be in question. Those on the left side or Vine, yeah, Vine.
Any other comments from the commission? Public input? Okay, do I have a motion on this one?
How, do we move to approve an amended? Are we,
I
what are
think
we
I'm
saying? Are
hearing
we
is
saying we're willing?
An amended motion that is allowing for the rear and then the north one, but not allowing for the one that's on Vine Street. But the other 5 would be fine.
Oh, is that you?
Motion for the amended, you got the wording? Yeah,
All
that's
right,
right.
hold on. So on which ones, and the reason for not being comfortable with the one on Vine Street is the commission feels that it's taking away from the character defining eyebrow window.
Correct.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
One more time. 309 Canal, Pond.
Got to get some.
No one is here for that one yet. So we are on 411 Walnut. This is Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy has been in front of the commission on June 10th, July 8th, and August 12th of 2021 for unauthorized construction of a brick wall in the front of his property. He had an approved COA from August 12th to construct a low brick retaining wall no higher than 12 inches in the same location as the pre-existing wall that he removed. The wall would be L-shaped, running along the sidewalk and turning back at the front driveway corner. Mr. Kennedy did not follow the COA. He was issued a second and third stop work order on July 26th and August 6th, respectively. He has appealed to council, and council has sent him back to the commission. Action requested. This COA is a new COA showing what Mr. Kennedy is proposing for the site. He proposes leaving all construction intact as seen from the photographs and site visits. He also proposes the addition of 2 quarter circle brick fans to transition from the tall brick walls on each side of the house down to the lower wall, making the lower brick wall taller in that section. Decatur's design review standards. 12, fencing. Within the district's cast iron and wooden picket fences are typically found along Principal Street vantages. Brick, chain link, wooden plank, and other wood fences are generally located at secondary vantages. Height. Fences at Principal Street vantages should be no higher than 3 feet. Fences on readily visible secondary vantages should be no higher than 6. Other fences. The use of chain link, wire, wood plank, vinyl, solid brick, or open weave fences along street vantages is not appropriate at Principal Street vantage. The use of these fence materials is appropriate at secondary vantages or where not visible from street vantages. 11, landscaping, subsection 7, garden structures. Garden structures such as retaining walls should be located as to not be readily visible from public vantages. Staff findings. In past reviews of this project, the commission has indicated the brick wall in the front yard is not appropriate based on the commission's standards, nor do they feel the width of the brick columns is appropriate. They are 26-inch square. Those details have not changed with this submission. Although the plan lists the brick wall at 36 inches high, the eastern wall is over 50 inches high. Staff could find no precedent for the commission approving brick quarter circle fans on brick walls within the district. Notes on the submitted plan, just to clarify, anything in yellow has already been built. The items in pink are what has been added to this particular one. So this is as it looks currently. Now the tops have been removed that go on the piers, but they're an inch or so thick. You've seen them in prior versions. So this is as exists, and the proposed brick fan would be right sort of here, and then there'd be a matching one on the other side. There. This shows the tops on the posts and some different playing with sort of the arrangements on the frontscape. This was earlier this year. I'll go back to the plan. A note to the commission as a reminder, the downspouts buried underground, and they are called out as part of this plan, are outside the scope of the HPC's regulatory overview, and as such, HPC should not include in its consideration these buried downspouts, because that's something that the property owner can put in without HPC, because they're not visible. So now it would be,
Ms. Vicki, you want to come up for, do you have anything more to say?
Okay. Yes. I want to add the fan structures right here. That's my landscape architect, Mr. Barnett, but he's not working on the job, but he said that would help marry the taller portion of the wall to the lower, and he felt that was great. And then the guy that is doing the project as far as landscape architect, he's out of Athens, and his name is Scott. He thought the same thing. So that's why I want to add that. I mean, I don't have to, but it just helps that side brick wall not seem so tall. From the grade of the front yard, I'm just asking for a level front yard to the grade of the entryway concrete. If you take measurements of the front yard on either side, it will be 36 inches to the top of the brick on the wall part. Now the retaining area is 1 foot on one side and it's 2 brick over on the opposite side. So I'm just trying to achieve a level
Where's the
front yard.
55 inches coming in?
Ma'am?
The one that's 55 inches, what's that figuring in? You say it's
I
36
guess
inches.
she did it on the opposite side and not the yard side, but that's the
Side
neighbors,
out.
and then we had dug out some. So when dirt's put back in there and it's landscaped, it won't be 52 inches tall.
Unless you're gonna fill Mr. Brown's yard, I think it will be.
No, I'm gonna put when they put the thing in on Mr. Brown, this area here, that's dug out a little bit. So if you go down, you can drop down almost a brick or two. But no, I'm just gonna level this down for Mr. Brown. But that's why I put in this section to keep everything from washing into Mr. Brown's yard. In past meetings, this started a year ago, this April. In past meetings, it's come to the street view, the rhythm of the street. Walking up this street, it's one-way walnut. So if you're walking up it, every yard has a retaining wall. The Browns have one, and then it goes into their driveway. The next property has one. I'm just trying to achieve a level front yard. I think Ms. Doty, the last amending was it would be, to grade and to use the front entryway sidewalk. Then I came in and, I did have dirt put in. That's why I'm under a stop work order, so I couldn't spread it out. It's grown up with weeds. I've not been able to weed eat. I've not been able to mow it. For Miss Carolyn, I couldn't do anything in this yard that was considered work. So I'm willing to work with the board. I've had Miss Carolyn out twice. One of them, she drew the diagram. I don't know what more I can do to achieve a level front yard and appease everyone. I have done a landscape architect. He drew it. There was some talk of drainage. The drainage issues have been solved by that retaining wall on the left side of the property.
Jacob, do you have any questions?
Well, I wasn't a part of a lot of your past meetings. I just reviewing this project and the pictures I saw of the way it was originally. And saw in there that there was a tree that fell and it had a concrete curve.
Yes, sir.
That was about 6 inches tall, maybe across the front of the yard in the originally. And I guess looking at the yard itself, I really didn't see a need for a retaining wall per se. And I guess what I'm seeing now looks more like a fence than a retaining wall.
Across the front.
Across the front and the sides. Everything from the front of the house forward it's inappropriate to have the brick. I mean, we don't allow the brick in the front for fences, and that's kind of where I don't understand how all the brick got placed in the front of the house.
How is it, I mean,
That's just by the guidelines. That's all I'm looking at is the guidelines and what we approved and what the guidelines say about fences. And a retaining wall can be at grade. You don't have to see anything above the ground. And so I don't see a need for all of the elevated fencing, I guess.
okay, so if it's brought up to grade, that won't be fencing, that will be the yard.
No, I'm saying
And the
a
yard
retaining-
across the street has the exact same thing, which plays into the rhythm. Then directly across from the home, there is it's almost 6 foot brick wall running the length of the property up to the house. So I don't understand, and brick not inappropriate in the front facade. There is 255 homes in Old Decatur alone that have brick retaining wall of some form or fashion in the front yard. And like when we was at the city council meeting, they said, you know, it may not be appropriate, but I'm surrounded by it. It's all over. So I'm just, if you can tell me how I can achieve that without tearing out all my brickwork, which I've already incurred $1,500 on this board's recommendation to take the columns down to a normal level. And so we just put, you know, it's just a brick retaining wall. I'm wanting to bring it up to grade as far as the concrete of the front entryway. So that's not a fence. I mean, it won't keep in. As it is now, this board has tied my hands with a stop work order, because when I didn't follow it, or I was trying to at least put some dirt in and smooth it out, Caroline showed up with the police. So I'm just wanting to get to a point, and also was encouraged by the city council, that we need to solve this. We're going on a year now. The brickwork's already in place. It's done. I just need to bring it up to grade and move on. I mean, I'm trying to work with the board. I have tried to work with the board.
I thought all of the city council members were against the 55 inches. I thought every single one of them was against that.
I mean,
No, they said 2 of them would have voted it in if the wall hadn't been that tall. And so our city council, Mr.
Besides
Pike,
Mr. Pepper.
Mr. Pepper was for it all. But, you know, he tabled it, and it was sent back to the historical board to hopefully we can work something out. Now, I mean, I could lower that a little bit on the side. I submitted 5 pictures with this. Miss Carolyn, did you put them on the?
They've got them. I don't have them all on this, but they have them all.
Oh,
So they're
okay.
all reviewed.
So,
I guess the question is, why wasn't the first COA followed?
the first one.
If
Right.
There was a COA that was approved.
It was followed, except for this area right here, because my brickman, you can tell how it slopes down, told me I would never keep dirt in this yard, and it would wash into Judge Brown's. So I said, well, okay, let's just go ahead, and so we did that, and the reason I did the wall area was just for symmetry. So it, you know, and to me, it would look better.
Jody, do you have any comments? Barbara?
All I can go by are the guidelines and whatever was done before in those other houses. All we can do is look at the guidelines we have, so.
So if you're looking at the guidelines, this will never get approved. And I've been treated, you know, arbitrary and capricious by this very board. And, you know, it's going to go to court because I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to solve this problem.
Bill, you have any comments? I mean, and we now have a new COA in front of us, and Caroline read off our design review guidelines, which is the only thing that we have that says we're going to try to keep things level. We are looking at that.
Right.
So if we say, well, sure, I'm going to give you a 55-inch brick fence around your thing, I can't tell anybody else that they can't totally enclose their front yard.
But
Now,
it's
but,
not,
well, okay, but listen to me, it's the guidelines, and they don't say 55 inches. Brick is generally located, secondary vantages, principal street vantages be no higher than 3 feet. The use of solid brick along street vantages is not appropriate at principal street vantage. Retaining walls should be located so as not to be readily visible from public vantages. Everything about what you have violates these guidelines. And that's what we are tasked with doing, not just saying, well, okay, you might be different, you might do this. We can't, that's not what we're doing. So we're not being arbitrary and capricious, we're following our guidelines. So any other comments the commission has?
I do. So I was given an amended COA and permission to have a 1 foot. I do not have a 52-inch fence around my yard. I have a 1 foot section across the front and the sides. Now there is a section that is on one side, I guess 52 inches. I've not measured it at 52 inches, but it was 36 when the architect measured it and when I measured it on the other side. So by no way have I enclosed my front yard with a fence. But I do want my yard to be level with the front entryway concrete so that when people walk out into the yard, they're not tripping. Okay. And that's a safety issue. But there again, all I did violating was put in that side. There's no way to keep dirt in the front yard without that side retaining wall. And retaining walls, so if it goes to court and the judge makes a ruling, does that...
The trial, the rule, if it goes to court, and you know, but first you've got the city council, and we'll explain that, you know, later on if this is denied. Do we have any public input? Anybody wants to say anything? Yeah, come up here, please.
You just need to state your name and
Yeah.
address.
I'm Ellis Chenault. I live at 417 Line Street, and I lived across the street from this house, down a half a block, for 25, 30 years. That lawn has never washed. It's always had grass in it. Sure, water goes downhill, but that lawn has always had grass in it, first of all. Second of all, this commission always tries to go back with original. Well, the picture that you see here is original. That's what it should be. If the concrete strip on the front needs to be brick, so be it. I don't like brick. David has talked about the retaining wall across the street from me. That's been there over 60 years. Obviously grandfathered in. You've got to start somewhere. But the dirt is level with the top of that. The retaining wall is not above that. If it's above it, it's a fence. If it's even to it, it's a retaining wall. The 6-foot fence he's talking about is in the side and back of that house. It's not the front of that house. A lot of things that are said are a little misleading there. To me, well, I have a son-in-law that's an architect, a historic architect in Nashville. I showed him a picture of the house. He just tore it up and threw it away. He said it's absolutely, totally wrong. You don't put brick like that in front of a wood frame house. It's not appropriate regardless of what height it is. So I would recommend to the commission to, doesn't matter what he spent. If he spent $2 or $20,000, it's wrong. What he has done is wrong. My recommendation to the commission is to deny it and require him to tear that down and get back into compliance first. He's talking about adding this COA. It's adding to something that's already non-compliant. That doesn't make logical sense.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, any other discussion by the commission? Do I have a motion
Motion
to?
approved.
To approve.
All right, all those in favor of approving the COA as presented?
What was the motion for?
To approve the
To
COA.
approve the COA, because motions are always in the affirmative. So Doty made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the COA, please say aye. All opposed? Say no.
No.
No. Okay, unanimously denied. Mr. Kennedy, there is, according to section 1892 of the Decatur City Ordinance, any person having a request for a certificate of appropriateness denied by the commission or architectural review board is provided in this article may appeal such denial to the city council within 15 days from the date of written notification. Any denial by the city council may be appealed to the circuit court within 15 days for the trial delivered. So just so you've got your own notice, okay?
So I have 15 days.
The
15 days to
instructions
appeal.
will be in the letter of denial of what to do.
Right, on the
You'll
date.
need to file a written notice of appeal with the clerk of city court, or clerk of city, sorry, not court. Stephanie Simon is the clerk of the city, and that's who you
Okay.
file the notice of appeal with.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I have one other question. So, can I work in the yard as far as smoothing out the dirt and planting grass
Well,
while this goes before
do
the
we
council?
need
and-
to set a time frame to get this torn out and put it back in compliance?
Whatever you all want to decide, if you've denied it and you want to issue, you've denied the COA, so it would be to him to come back with another COA. If it's out of compliance and there's a stop work order, then that's still in place because the COA has been denied. So
Okay, should we?
whatever work would be allowed
I mean,
under a
he
stop
can
work.
weed it, but he
I'd
can't.
say weeding would
But
be
he
fine.
he can't
please.
add dirt or complete the landscaping because none of that is approved.
Do
and
we
there's
need
3
to-
stop work orders.
If you choose not to appeal,
Mhm.
then do we have a time, should we have a time frame
Bring it back into.
to bring it back into compliance, which means getting rid of the brickwork,
All brickwork,
all brickwork?
even though 3/4 of it was approved by this board.
3/4 of it was not approved by this board.
Um,
Do we need to do that, Carolyn?
If he's appealing this,
But if he
I
does
think
appeal,
everything needs to just be on hold until the appeal goes before city council. He can weed eat to keep it in compliance with city ordinance for weeds, things like that, but no work that would be completing any type of project.
so if we wait for the appeal period,
I would just wait to see what the appeal, before you issue that he needs to do something in
Okay.
case they decide one way or another. That way, while we're waiting on that, he can maintain the grass, so it's not in violation of an ordinance, but any other work. But if it comes back and he's still out of compliance, if they uphold the decision of the commission, then at that point, you could give him a timeline within which to do whatever it is that's out of compliance and be specific about what items need to be done at what time from anything that's out of compliance.
okay, thank you. Okay,
One other question. So if I bring the walls down to the same height or as the retaining?
I would suggest that so if you want to do something like that, I need for you to submit a new COA that actually says that. Because we're not gonna say here, well, if you do this, I'm gonna do this. I can't say, well, if you come down 6 inches here, because you haven't been coming down 6 inches and haven't been 3 feet, you've been 4 feet, 5 feet. So I would request that if you want to try to bring this into compliance, understanding, I read to you our guidelines that we are going by, which means probably not very much of what's there will pass this commission, then you can submit another COA.
Okay,
Please be mindful of your appeal process, your appeal time period.
but this board did approve, commission rejected a past drawing and approved a retaining wall of 12-inch height, 1 brick deep, along 3 sides.
Tonight, what they're determining is the COA that was filed for this meeting.
Right.
That is the
Oh,
current
okay.
COA. This is, you
We're
all were
not-
trying
we're
to
not
work it out,
redressing
you filed a
anything
new
else
COA.
in the
We're
middle.
not going back in history to address prior COAs that they've issued a ruling on. And if you appealed it, you filed a new COA to try to come into compliance with what city council issued. That's what you're here about today by filing the new one. So we've started the process again. This is what's before them tonight.
Okay,
The COA you filed,
right.
that we just talked about,
Yes.
is what they're considering tonight and what they voted on. We're not talking about past things. That's what's before them tonight on the agenda is the current COA that was filed. Because that's what you filed in response to going to the city council.
So now if I file another COA,
You can either file another
It
COA
will
or
be-
you can file an appeal. That's your choice of what you
so I could appeal to the council.
filed tonight. The COA that was just denied is what you would be appealing, and that's it.
Okay. So if I go before the council and do the 1 foot retaining wall, they won't.
Whatever is on here, I don't know all the specifics of what you've indicated you were going to do
Right.
or not do. I'm just saying whatever was in the COA that you presented for the agenda for the board to discuss and approve or deny tonight, that's what's going to be before city council because it was a denial. And so if you decide to appeal that, then you will have 15 days within which to file something with the city council, but it will be just to discuss this COA. And of course, they're going to want to know if it was able to be resolved, which the answer is what you provided was denied.
Okay. I did not understand that. I thought it was going to be work on some solutions, not just what I presented, and then I'm once again gridlocked in
What you
their approval.
presented is what they considered, and that was what you were supposed to do from council was to come back here.
Mr. Kennedy, we can't sit here and discuss with you, well, if you'd lower that here, there, and yon, because it's all verbal. Maybe we keep a recording of this, maybe we don't. And you're gonna come back and say we said something, and we're gonna say we said something else, and it just doesn't work like that. So you have filed that certificate of appropriateness. We've considered what you've got, the picture here, and what you've added, and the fans and everything else, and it has been denied by the
Okay.
commission. So you have the right to appeal that. If you choose to bring it down, do something else, whatever it is you want to do, you may file another certificate of appropriateness. But I think we're through here right now. We've denied that. We've given you notice of your appeal process and the fact that you can bring file another COA. So I think that's really all we can, that's
But
the
when-
only other thing we can do tonight.
But if I go before the city council, I
That's all, that's
cannot,
the city council's issue.
so I can go before them with a amended
No.
COA, or I have to
No.
do
You are
the same
appealing the
thing?
decision
It's
of
an
the
appeal
commission.
of tonight's decision.
Right.
Right,
And we decided on that plan,
right.
okay?
So then I'll have to come back before the council with another COA.
Commission before another COA. The council doesn't take
I
COA.
mean, I'll have to come back before the commission with another COA.
Yes.
Okay.
All
So
right.
what you're telling me is 15 days, city council.
Well, you have to file an appeal. It takes action on your part.
Well, the only other alternative I would have would be to tear it all out.
That might be the only option.
Right. So, I mean,
It
I plan
depends.
to appeal, of course.
Okay, then you have 15 days to appeal to the city council. And if the city council, whatever the city council does, if you don't like what they do, you have 15 days after that decision to appeal to the circuit court.
But I can
The
only.
trial de novo, everything's
No
thrown
one's
out.
advising you as to what you should do.
No.
Right.
We're just
It's up
telling
to
you,
you.
tonight you filed a COA, which is what the hearing here was for. They have followed all the protocols to ask you to explain the COA. They have voted on it, they had the public discussion, it was denied. So therefore, you have the time to appeal, if you want, is 15 days. And if you don't want to appeal, you're free to file a new COA with a different plan on how to, whatever you think might be approved that you can work with, that's what this is about. When you filed the COA,
Oh, okay.
that was the city council sent you back here. It was to file something so that you could see if you could work it out. And it appears what you filed, from what I've gathered, is no different from what you filed prior. So I think the reason it's been denied, I don't know, but from what I've heard, is that you file basically the same thing again, and so your only recourse now is to appeal or to file a different COA with something that maybe you all can resolve.
So then I can file a different COA with the commission, and we'll still have, after that, if it's voted in or not, I will still have the option of going before the city council if I need to appeal
Sure,
it.
you can file another COA. There's nothing that says
The
that you
optional
can't
word there
file
was
another
different.
COA.
Okay.
The same. Okay, thank you, sir. Move on to the next one.
So do we have a representative for 309 Canal with us? Or Ms. Hahn or Mr. Dumas? So we don't have a representative on this one. I can present it and see if y'all feel that you need to talk to them, or if it's something you can approve without them here. So why don't we go back on this one?
Where are we going, back to 309?
Yes, we're going back to the very first one, which is 309 Canal Street Northeast. Ms. Hahn, she actually lives out of state a portion of the time, and Mr. Dumas has been serving as her contractor. This is an old Decatur. So this is actually a rear structure that had a fire in 2001, almost a year ago. It caused significant damage to a one-story building at the rear of the property. I have been working with them to fast track. They've put a new roof on it, new wood window approved, a new wood door, but obviously we're now at the point where it needs siding. It is not visible from the street, and you can see it had a number of different types of siding. It had some masonite, it had some wood shingle. This is sort of what it looks like now as they're waiting for the window and door to come in. And what they were requesting on this particular one was a hardy shingle, so not the planks, but a hardy shingle. Exterior siding, synthetic siding may be appropriate for use on ancillary buildings or for other new construction that's not readily visible from the street. Such materials should generally match the visual character of the traditional wood siding found in the district. Staff findings, the building is not visible from the front of the house. It appears to meet the standards required for synthetic siding. You can confirm the dimensions of the proposed siding. Actually, and they had sent those to me. It matches fairly closely. And that the entire building will have the same siding. So my only suggestion on this one is if you feel like it's going to be an affirmative vote and you don't need them here for that, that's fine. If you feel like you can't make a motion and vote without them here, I would just suggest tabling it, not voting against it, but waiting on them.
Commission, do we have any comments, any feelings on that? Whether we can.
I think it'd be affirmative.
I agree.
Yeah,
Location, I would
Yeah.
allow it.
that's, I would agree too, that based on location, we can't see it, and everything would be the same, so I guess we take up, do I have a motion to approve this COA?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Okay, okay. Oh, public comment, I'm sorry. Anybody out there want to chime in on this one? Okay, thank you. Okay, so those all our COAs.
Through the COAs. We are on to commission business. The first one, remember Mr. Dickey came back in front of the commission a few sessions back to bring his porch post back into compliance, and that the porch posts had to be amended to require turned wood posts like those removed by the applicant, and then of course to install the scroll cut saw work. But there wasn't a deadline given for that, and because that one actually had an active court summons, we do need a deadline given to Mr. Dickey. He's working on those himself, so I would suggest setting a deadline end of June, maybe early July, to give him time to put those in. But I need a motion with a formal vote by the commission to have a deadline on the record.
Do I have any comments from the commission? I have a
I don't,
motion.
do we have a, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
do we have any kind of a precedent for how long we,
We normally give 3 months. He was at the February meeting. Obviously, he's not gonna be working outdoor in February.
right,
So you could say
started in
May,
April?
June.
Yeah.
So all of April, all of May, all of June, which
Yeah.
would be end of June, which would be that 3 months.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I have a motion to set the deadline at the end of June,
So give me a date, June.
June 30th.
30th, okay.
2022.
Motion?
Motion made.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay.
Item number 2, formal partnership with the Historic Decatur Association, which would require creating a committee within the HPC. The Historic Decatur Association has a tree planting program which has planted trees within Old Decatur and Albany residential districts. The program is designed to replace the vanishing character defining old growth tree canopy within the district. Action requested, because the program involves COAs, because it's on city right-of-ways, legal urban forestry practices, and it has key components reviewed by Park and Rec, the Historic Decatur Association would like to partner with the HPC on the program. The Historic Decatur Association would provide the funds, they have approximately $14,000 at this time, to join the HPC on community outreach, and the HPC via HPC staff and committee to work with City Hall on appropriate locations, longer-term issues of character-defining streetscapes within districts and survey tree locations. Staff findings. The city ordinance that created the HPC states that the intent of this article is to establish a uniform procedure for use in providing the protection, enhancement, perpetuation, and use of places, districts, sites, buildings, structures, objects, landscape features, and works of art having special historical, cultural, or aesthetic interest or value. HCP partnering with the Historic Decatur Association would help standardize the tree planting program and provide staff to work directly with other city departments and consult with other municipalities on best practices. Section 1845(8) of the ordinance says HPC is authorized to make such investigations and studies of matters relating to historic preservation. The design review standards for the districts mentions large shade trees such as oaks and maples along streets in both districts, end quote. The Historic Preservation Commission policies state, quote, HPC may establish committees as it deems advisable and assign each committee specific duties or functions. The chair shall designate the members of each committee and shall name the chair of each committee. So in this case, it would be a committee to start looking at larger policy issues of the street trees in terms of locations, how many types of trees, and specifically how other municipalities address this, because other historic districts have these same issues. And we do have Marion here tonight. She goes, yeah, on behalf, she's the current president of the Historic Decatur Association. If there are any additional questions about the program.
First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for taking the hard job. We get to plan the Christmas tour. No, that's not easy, but we have been talking about this for a little while with the Historic District, Historic Decatur Association, and have had leadership changes and COVID and all of these different things. So we've gotten some momentum and then sort of slid back and had a great meeting the other day with the board and feel like that this could be a meaningful partnership to help us get a nice vision for replacing the shade trees, which we know are so important, and we've been losing. I believe the Lorax is going to be showing up here soon. We've lost so many. So appreciate y'all entertaining this. I think we could work really well together. All you guys do to keep the neighborhood reflective of these design review standards, and I'm so glad that that can reach into, you know, the shade trees and what that, and that's very special in our area. I know that when you come into our neighborhood, if it's just you know, no trees, then that can be a very different set of circumstances. It makes our houses look better. So thank you guys. Do y'all have any questions to the HDO? Okay.
So do we need to set up a tree committee?
It would be
I'm
a
gonna ask
motion
Barbara.
to set up a tree committee and to select members and name a chair. And
So I need a
then
motion to set up the tree committee.
and name out the members, and then I would work with them to start looking at other municipalities' best practices, how it's handled across the country and within the states, that we can standardize how to work with them on their planting program. Because any trees in that median, that's public right away, so the city has an interest in that location at the point.
Do I have a motion to set up a tree committee?
I moved to set up a tree committee.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have a tree committee. I would like to ask Barbara to chair it.
Certainly
Dodie
try.
to be on it. Rebecca, how, you into trees?
I am.
Okay, all right, we got 3 members.
Okay, that was great.
I didn't say that.
I will actually next Friday be attending an all-day legal session down in Birmingham on urban trees and some of the
Thank you.
legal issues with that, and it's a municipal urban forestry one, so I will be there the whole day. I will come back with data, and then I will reach out to the committee chair, and we will start working on it there. I'll get all the handouts, and then we'll set a date after I get back.
Bill, if you want to serve on it too. Okay. Jacob, I know you've got your
I
hands.
cut down too many trees.
Okay.
Maybe that's why you need to be on the committee.
Okay. All right.
Vote to suspend streaming of the HPC sessions. The HPC, at the request of the city, began having meeting sessions live streamed during the pandemic. There was, at that point, HPC legally did not have to be in this room for sessions. You could dial in. That action supported pandemic-related legal changes. The legal framework that allowed that meeting flexibility has expired, so all of the commissioners now have to be back in the room. And commission members have to be in person to cast votes. The streaming the meeting requires resources from the IT department. Some of you may have noticed that we changed our meeting time too, because we also have legal here. We were at the point where we had 4 city staff getting overtime to support the meeting. So we're trying to be respectful of city budget, and we still have open public meetings. Some commissioners have asked if the commission still needs to utilize municipal resources at this level for our meetings, particularly since it's a very small neighborhood that is impacted by these meetings. So staff queried the legal department and was told there's no legal requirement to continue streaming the meetings. The commission can vote to stop videoing and streaming the meetings if so desired.
Okay, do I have a motion to?
Discussion,
Discussion,
and then
motion.
open it to the floor.
Anything?
No discussion.
No, I don't have anything. I think as good stewards, we need to
Yeah.
save the city money.
Okay, any other comments, Bill? Any comment?
No.
Oh, excuse me, okay, sir.
Hello. My name's Randy Hill. I live at 2804 Hunterwood Drive, Hickory Hill subdivision. Thank you all for allowing me time to speak, but I'd
I'm
like.
sorry, we'll limit it to 3 minutes as well, too. I don't think that's been stated up to this
I don't think it'll take that long. I'd just like to ask you that you continue the meetings. Sometimes I need to go back. I like to see what's going on in our city, and I like to have reference to this. Sometimes when I don't have time to get here or traffic's bad, I enjoy seeing what's going on and learning as we go. We too have some tree lovers in our area, so I'd ask that you continue the meetings. Maybe something good came out of COVID, and with the setting up of the videos, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill, I don't have you on this.
I
If you
did, I got here late, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Any
Are you living in the
comments
districts? What was your
from the
address?
commission?
2804
Are
Hunterwood
Caroline's
Drive.
notes made public, or is there something he could see that would be on file for him to access if we didn't have the videos?
Well, the minutes are, Caroline, are the minutes posted on the website?
They're public, city clerk has them,
I said, okay,
so they are,
so there is a way to find out what they
Yeah.
are.
they've public record, the meetings are open to the public, the minutes are, yeah.
I do have
I
a
was just trying
comment.
to, go ahead.
I was
Okay.
excuse me.
Do you want to finish, Barbara?
Oh, I just wanted to say I was contacted by someone from another part of the city, not in our neighborhood, that they were concerned about us not having the streaming, but I think their concern was more that all the different meetings wouldn't be streamed, such as the city council meeting. I think it was confusing to some people when they heard HPC might not be streamed. They assumed that then other meetings might not be streamed. I don't think this has anything to do with any other meeting.
Some
Right,
commissions,
Caroline?
some boards don't stream, so it was a board-by-board decision
Okay.
during the pandemic to address it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for letting me speak for just a few minutes, maybe less than 3. My name is Andrea Hoffmeyer-Wilson. I'm at 1306 Caradell Street, so I'm not in your lovely subdivision. I would have been if my mother-in-law had been able to move to where she wanted to over 60 years ago, but her son pitched a fit and wanted to stay on Caradell Street. But we love your neighborhood, and I really think that it's important for you to keep live streaming because the decisions that you are making, you have really good stewardship for your neighborhood, and I think that the rest of Decatur actually kind of looks at what you're doing. Maybe everybody doesn't agree with all the decisions that are made every time in here, but we all would aspire to our streets being kept up as beautifully and everything. So I think it's really good. I think it's also really good to have the historical record of it, the decisions that are made and the discussions that are had. I also think that it's really important for education because I think that school children, I think that in college courses, some of these discussions could actually become really good cases where a teacher could say, hey, go and look at this. There was a discussion about a partnership, for a tree committee, and then here's what came out of it. So I just think that, yes, something good may have come out of COVID. It's a beautiful record that we have of these conversations. So I would ask that you continue to have them. I know it costs a little bit of money, but it's money well spent. Thank you.
Caroline, just for clarification, we talked, I think, a little bit earlier, the recording is not actually kept. I mean, there's
It's
not.
live streamed, the
You
city,
can go back and watch it.
but the city doesn't keep them. Lamar's
It's
not
on
here, is he?
YouTube.
Doesn't-
City
yeah, the
doesn't-
city doesn't.
The city doesn't have a policy to keep,
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
no like
So-
great database of every meeting that's ever been recorded. There's no way to physically store all of that for the HPC, and what's there online is there, but if something happens to it online and there's
Yeah,
some
the city
glitch
doesn't
with-
control it.
we don't control that, so that it's not required, it's not something we keep as a matter of record. It's just,
But you do have,
it was streamed and videoed for the sake of COVID.
Right, so it's not necessarily a record
Yeah.
somewhere.
I think just it makes it easier too for people who can't get here at this time to have access or be able to go back and watch it even within a week. And I hope the city keeps it like as a YouTube. I think it's not so difficult. Appreciate that y'all have done that over this period of time because I've heard from residents too that actually go back and watch them. I don't know if y'all noticed, but even the last meeting had 43 views. That's really good engagement. And I think that it helps people learn. Like if they're going to come before the HPC, it gives us say, hey, go watch some meetings so you kind of know what you're getting into. Or you may say, oh, the precedent was set for a retaining wall at this meeting, and you can learn more about it. So you kind of don't come in quite as blind when you're not swimming in this design review all of the time. I think it can be very helpful and beneficial. So I hope you guys keep it. I know I've watched all of the meetings the past 3, so that's been great, or the past however many, just since I became the HDA president, and that's another thing for continuity of leadership. So you can go back and have those points of reference. So please, y'all, keep streaming them.
Talking. That was
Oh,
just
okay.
left on.
Well, no, and I hope that the city council will keep it supported, and maybe even archives. I think archives are a good thing on that YouTube channel where you don't have to dig back, through however many dates. Maybe y'all could set up folders for the different entities so you could just pop in there and see what you're curious about. So thank y'all so much. I know it's a lot with technology, but I think it's been very helpful.
Any other comments?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was looking and I didn't see you.
No worries, I'll just go fast. Thank you for writing my name down. Paige Bibby, 2804 Sylvia Drive, Decatur, Alabama, 35603. Thank you, Commission, for what you do. Let me do some clarification here. It is not by law that the state requires us to keep those. In the past, it was a legal issue. If you didn't keep those and someone came and asked for a public record of it, the city had to go through their catalog, then they had to then print that meeting for them, the minutes, and the citizen would have to pay for that. Now that we have all the social medias that go straight to the streaming, city doesn't have to keep any of that. It's not a requirement by state of Alabama law, but it is also highly recommended by the League of Municipalities, which Decatur is. We do consider them very important in what we do in our everyday business. They do recommend it. It is a good record. There's been some very good points today. And I know that today it's the commission that we're in question if you continue on. Tomorrow it may be the next board that meets, which is planning. It may be BOZA. And they may say the same thing, that we're not required to do it. But I think you see a broad stretch of people around the community who now can see that, can go back and look at YouTube and watch these meetings and understand a little bit more about our municipal government. I think that's important. Not everybody can make a time, whether it's 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock for council meetings, but they can go back at their leisure and look at these. So I ask that y'all continue to do it. I am part of a coalition, and a couple of them are here tonight. And if it does go away, I can tell you, we will, as citizens, we will come to every meeting and we will record it live, and we'll put it on all social medias. So it will not only be on YouTube, it will be on everyone that is available. We will download the calendar for this, for the day of whichever, and we'll be for whatever meeting. It's not necessarily y'all's, but we think they should continue to be streamed for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the commission? Any other further public comments? Do I have a motion to?
Can we table? Can we
Can we
table?
table it?
Do we have,
What?
does it cost us?
Yeah.
I mean, do we have any idea?
That would be a question for IT. It takes a full-time person here for the whole
Time that we're here.
and just come in early and set up. And when we run after hours, I'm assuming overtime as well.
And how many other boards or city council, I presume, is?
City
Okay.
council is, other boards are discussing it. I know, and Ruth, you might, there's one that doesn't do it, and I can't remember which personnel board doesn't do it.
We have an option of voting on it. We may table it if we want to. Next meeting, if y'all want to think about it.
I personally would like to table it and do some thinking and some talking and some research.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to table.
Second? All right, second. All those in favor of tabling the decision to stop streaming, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll table it. Will the IT,
I can reach out and get that
Okay,
information, try to get that
see
information.
what
Yeah.
and who's doing what and what's costing the city to do this?
Let's see, staff updates. Preservation Month is next month, so I have been reaching out to everybody about photos, so I'll be following up with everybody over the weekend or next week as we start working on that. Compliance updates, Mr. Keenum's deadline was this week. I will follow up with him, and a court summons may be necessary for that one. We'll follow up with Drury as well. Tax credits, was notified by the federal government that Simpsons received their full tax credits. It was approved by the federal level with no condition statement, which that's huge, because normally they say, we'll approve it, but And then you have to look at the next page, and then it lists all the things they want you to change on the documentation. I was so surprised when there was no condition statement. I actually called the state, and I'm like, hey, did they forget to send it to me? And they said, no, you passed with no conditions. We never see that. And I was like, yeah. So we're very excited. They're very excited. The first thing they're working on is ordering that walk-in flower cooling system, because that's part of their HVAC for the building, and that's what was failing. And tax credits will cover 45% of that for them. So that's huge.
Wow.
Because it was leaking Freon. It was the original, they just couldn't keep it cold anymore. It was so ancient. Decatur walking tour, we've had 2 great ones this coming weekend, 10 a.m., is it 10 a.m. or 10 a.m.? On Saturday, Phil Wyrie is at the City Cemetery. The following week, I am at Albany. My group meets at the Delano Park Rose Garden. And the last weekend of the month is David Breland with Streetcars and Railroads meeting at the depot. This is a statewide program, so every Saturday in April, there are probably 20 or so municipalities that do this. Some of them do the same tour every weekend, and some vary it. I think Decatur's the only one that does a different one each week. And I'm always envious because I want to go see somebody else's, and then we have something good going here. So I think I made it to Mooresville like 3 years ago once. But so they're worth going to. NAPC, the commissioners, remember we had the training from NAPC. They meet every other year. They have a big national meeting. This year is in Cincinnati. It is in July. It starts on a Thursday and runs through Sunday afternoon. It's worth looking at going if you're interested. I can forward you all the information. I will be there as a session organizer. So I'm running a session on public outreach with colleagues from 3 other states.
I'm sorry, what are the dates?
It is
That's okay.
July 14th through 17th. They have some pre-stuff on Tuesday, Wednesday, but the main things that most of you would be, it's really that Thursday. I'm actually going to be attending a half-day session on disaster preparedness, specifically looking at tornadoes and damage with other colleagues from other municipalities on how they address historic districts, because as we all know, you have an inline storm come through and everything hits really fast, and it's how to line up agencies, how to get funding. So I'll be attending that. I think that is Thursday morning, because I come in Wednesday afternoon. Friday and Saturday are full-day sessions. It's really interesting when I went through. It was one of those like, okay, which session do I go to? Because they have multiple ones that look good. They have ones that cover legal. They have ones that cover design review, alternative materials, reaching out to disenfranchised groups, working with community support, finding money. They pretty much cover everything. So they're really exciting to go to that. Realtor training, and actually I might even have So, is Bill back there? Bill, friendly realtor. This is my contact. So he has me set up now that anytime there is a listing in the historic district that goes on to MLS, I am notified immediately via email of the address. Yes. Then I take this handy dandy postcard, I fill it out to the realtor who's listing it, and it says your listing, and I give them the address, is in this historic district. And there's a little QR code here where they can scan it, and it takes them to the HPC page.
Very cool. They can hand it on to interested buyers. It doesn't catch everyone because there's a lot of properties that sell directly without going through.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for quite some time now, anytime they go into a closing attorney in Decatur, those closing attorneys all have letters that they hand out to people at the closing to tell them they're in the district.
Right.
So we're working on more and more public outreach on that. I'm attending a half-day session on realtor training in Tennessee next month, I think. Next few months I'm busy. So I'll be, and seeing how they train, and it's for accreditation for realtors, so I want to see how they run their session because I've been approved by the state board to run one here, but I just want to see how someone else runs one first. And then trees and municipal legal issues, that's what I'll be training on next Friday. So those are my updates.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, discussions from the commission? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn, will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?